Setting up an accurate digital twin is a critical step to eliminate program editing on the floor while the machine waits, or worse, collisions creating hidden costs and machine downtime. For lathe equipment, having an accurate representation of the chuck jaws is an important component to the success of the program. So let's set up some proper jaws for our lathe. Okay, we're going to make a stepped jaw to be used in Esprit's simulation. So here, if you recall the original tutorial for the Kitagawa 3-jaw chuck, this is the jaw that we saved out as a separate jaw GDML file. So I've got this point here where this segment terminated that was originally, when I created this, this was defining where the center axis was before I relocated my jaw for the jaw axis position here. So this is the machine center of rotation basically. And what I did is I created three different, well here I'll delete these and we'll come over here to geometry, circle 1, and just picking the end point here, we'll do a point 5 and we'll do a 0.75 sized bar diameter. So actually let's I'm gonna do you could do whichever one that you want, whatever size that you want. Obviously I have this already done, so why don't I just do a different one. I'm gonna do 0.625, which is gonna be 1 inch and 1/8, and then we'll do I don't know, maybe 1.375, which is going to be, sorry, not 1.375, 0.875, which is going to be 1.5 inches. So I'm going to do these two diameters for mine. You could use whatever diameter that you want. And I have these two circles created, but what I want to do is I want to make sure that they match up with the face here on this solid, this face right here. So what I can do is I can basically click and drag, and from the left to right just put the box touching these two geometry circles to highlight them. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to translate. So I can right click, come to copy, and then translate, and I'm going to select copy here instead of move. So I want to have another copy made. We're going to make one copy. We're going to use 2 points. So I'm going to say OK, and the first thing that Esprit is asking for is it says select the translation point. So we want to use this point here because I have a reference here that I can use. So this point here is P0. So the 0 point in Esprit is actually point number 0. So I'm going to hit 0 on my keyboard. So for the translation point, I'm going to pick 0, and my little del thing came up there, so getting in the way. So I'm going to say 0 here, and I'm going to say enter, and then the destination point. When I move my mouse, I have my snap highlights, and I'm going to pick and digitize the center of this face right here. And you'll see that it makes 2 new circles for me that are evenly matched up with the front of that face because I translated from here to here. So that is the distance that I want. And the reason that I did that was because when I extrude these back into the face of the jaw, I want to know what that distance is. So let's start with the larger diameter. So we're going to grab this, and depending on how much you want to grip on, that's up to you. I'm going to do, I don't know, 150, 200 thousandths here. So I'm going to come to my modeling icons, which is right here. And then the first one is called extrude. And depending on what you're doing or what you did last, it's probably set to blind. So mid-plane is nice because you can see here that this is a graphical thing. They don't graphically display perfectly on top of each other. So if you're a little worried about that, you could do mid-plane, and then if I put in my distance, I'm going to put in 200 thousandths here. You'll see that, it goes 200 into the jaw, but just to go the other way, it'll go from the center out that distance in both directions. So this was solid number 3 when we highlighted it, and we're going to pick body number 3 as my active body, and then I'm going to say cut to yes, and when I do that, I'm going to say OK, and we'll get that cut out of the jaw. So we have our first step, okay? And now we're going to come and highlight this next one, this next diameter, and basically do the same thing again, except here, instead of 0.2, I want this to be, it's a smaller diameter. Do I want to grip it at 200 or maybe 150 or, whatever? I'm just going to leave it at 200. I'm going to select body number 3, cut yes, and we've got both of the steps. So when I save this out, I don't want to have this geometry grouped, so I'm going to click somewhere else. And now the geometry won't be saved with the GDML file. So I'm going to come down here and say Save As, and I'm going to say jaw file. It was, I think, 1 3/4, so 1.75. The other one was 1 1/4, I believe. Yeah, 1 1/4. So 1 3/4 and 1 1/4. Maybe put a D on there, just so I'm consistent in my nomenclature. I'm going to say OK, and now I'm going to load a machine and do all that stuff. So what I want to do is come here to Home, go to Part Setup, and for the part, I'm just going to pick this bolt on the inside here. And for the bar, I'm going to add a bar stock, and I'm going to put outside diameter of 1.25, which was the smaller size. And let's just make this something a little bit longer. We'll make that 3 inches. So we can see a bar preview there. And this is just for demonstration here, so we're not actually going to machine that. I'm going to put a machine in here. So we load a machine, and we're going to zoom in, and I'm going to load my BR08 chuck jaw body that we made in a previous tutorial. So here it is, and now we want to go ahead and load the jaw that we literally just saved out. So we're going to say OK. This is already highlighted. We can see the jaw icon is there, and now I'm going to pick, this is the one that I just made. So we'll get the preview. I can see those steps in there. I'm going to say OK, and we see those are loaded on all 3 positions. I'm going to say OK, and now I'm going to click on this chuck body, and I'm going to add my workpiece here. So now this was a 1 1/4 D. So what I'm going to do is, you can see that I'm going to turn off my sheet metal here. Okay, so now that I have this loaded, we want to mate this diameter to this face. So I can pick, individual faces that I want to mate to. So I'm going to pick that face there, and then I'm going to pick the back of my stock billet. So very important, after I pick that first one, I want to hold the Control key down, and I want to pick this back face so that I have multiple items selected on the screen. So you can see here that we have this and this face highlighted, and I'm going to pick this right here and say OK. And you'll see now that my billet is placed, flush up against that innermost extruded chuck face. Well, I should say jaw face. So if I have a larger bar diameter and I want to do the other one, I'll just sorry, I got to go back to the part setup and change my stock diameter here. So I'm going to come here and change that to 1.75, so it's larger. You see it get a little bit bigger there. And Now what we want to do is I want to edit where my position is for my workpiece, so I need to double click that, and I'm going to use mating. So this time I'm going to pick this face and zoom in here and hold Control, grab that other back face, and you'll see my bar shift forward, and then I can open and close that, and you'll see that that is placed flush up against that jaw, and you can see the other one is empty. So that is how you create a custom stepped jaw for the Esprit lathe simulation using the jaw file that we saved out. So you can use that to make square cutouts. You know, if you were going to use a square piece, you can take that jaw and you can make a copy and make, you know, 3 rotations and then save them out. You know, this is the way that you do it. So very cool, very simple, very quick to get very accurate simulations.